Hey all, Siege here, and although I've been going back and forth on whether or not I should make this video over the past few days, I finally decided it needed to be done. Recent developments concerning XP throttling, doubling of the XP requirement to earn in-game rewards, and the overall change of the core of the game got me to thinking as to why Destiny 2 even exists. And I'm guessing some of you already picked up on this, but regardless, get out your tinfoil hat and pitchforks, because we're diving into the real reason behind the need for a sequel versus just continuing to add content to the original Destiny, like so many of us believed they would. Spoiler, it clearly has nothing to do with being able to push out content quicker due to the platform, engine, or whatever reason they threw out on us. Lying bastards. So, Destiny 2. Destiny motherfucking 2. I remember when the original news broke that instead of adding more content to the game, which was pretty darn good, mind you, with the Taken King portion of it being the crown jewel in my opinion, they were instead launching a sequel, taking all of our hard-earned stuff over the better part of 3 years and starting the game fresh, with a whole new experience. This was not something I originally was on board for, but the game had given me so many fun moments that I enjoyed with my friends that I thought, you know, I gotta give them the benefit of the doubt. So, I embraced the change because I began to think about the possibilities. With everything they'd learned from Destiny 1, surely this game would take all its strengths, trim some of the fat, and we'd have an experience with everything I could possibly want from the game. Besides, grinding for new, interesting gear would be fun, right? Well, after taking a hard look at everything, from launch to the recently released Curse of Osiris, I finally know now why a sequel was so necessary. And, as I mentioned before, it doesn't have anything to do with being able to provide content or updates in a faster way. Obviously, Prometheus lens. Now, before we get to my ultimate Destiny conspiracy theory, the first one that actually doesn't involve the lore, because let's face it, Bungie surely doesn't give a shit about staying true to any of that. I just want to go over what we know about the game that started this thought and the piece of news that really solidified the idea for me. Destiny 2, at least on console, launched with little to no visual improvements at all. I can honestly say that if the game does look better, it only does by minuscule amounts that are hardly worth requiring an actual sequel. Don't get me wrong, Destiny 2's art design and music, its two strongest points, are stunning. But then again, Destiny 1's art design and music are stunning. The overall gameplay still feels good, although I have to say I do prefer Destiny 1's a little bit just because, one, that it's faster, and the abilities, you know, the thing that differentiates this game from other first-person shooters, are more readily available, powerful, and satisfying. And the primary, secondary, and heavy loadout are not only more effective, in my opinion, but offer more variation in your moment-to-moment gameplay, making the constant shooting you have to do in this game more interesting and less fatiguing. And oh my god, I'm so sick of shooting a primary in Destiny 2. Seriously, was this like a troll by the developers because people made fun of the D1 Crucible due to its lack of primary gunfights? Like, if so, I get the joke, but I'm not laughing. There's literally no innovation other than a piece of Titan cover, a Warlock squad health regen, and mantling on structures. That's it. Changing the animation and adding reload or whatever to shade step, that's not innovation. So okay, what else was new? Grenade launcher. But before you say it, SMGs don't count. They're just auto rifles with no range, or essentially Destiny 1 auto rifles. There are a few new gun models, but even they get old as they're reskinned over and over and over again, with almost unnoticeable differences in stats. And one perk. One. Some of those perks are laughable too. This decision is even more of a head-scratcher when you take into consideration the fact that all the weapons can be shaded to be whatever color you want. Well, unless of course they're exotic. Those weapons have even less customization. They need a special skin offering 1 or 2 other iterations and have no selectable attributes. I thought they were supposed to be the sought-after, interesting things to get in the game. Why then are they so restrictive versus the other guns? And speaking of those, why would I want a positive outlook when I already have the number, the Jiangxi, and the Uriel's gift? What's the difference other than that one perk? This theme is carried out across the entire game, and the Curse of Osiris took it to another level altogether. The vast majority of guns introduced in the DLC are either more reskins or guns taken directly out of D1. Let's go over a few now, shall we? Let's see. The Machina Day 4 is the Stranger's Rifle. The Garden Prodigy is the Fang of Yut. Infinite Paths is the Praetor's Timepiece. West of Sunfall is a slightly altered palindrome. I could go on and on. I think you could even make the case that the Perfect Paradox, the shotgun you get from this upcoming quest around Saint 14, is actually the Invective with just a different stock. They even put the 14, the Roman numeral there where the old Invective had writing. Isn't that cute? They're all reskins with a few little cosmetic changes to hide the fact. Seriously, this is just lazy, and it's really not acceptable for a sequel. Let's move on to the game itself. Most critics of Destiny 2 will tell you its biggest issue is with endgame content and just needing a reason to do things being the major point of contention. What if I told you the game is exactly how Bungie planned it to be, endgame and all, with them shifting the focus to Eververse instead? Ask yourself this. Why are the only newly designed items, across the board that is, in the form of ships, shaders, ghost shells, and emotes in the Curse of Osiris? Isn't it amazing that we got no new legendary weapon models, yet there's a host of brand new models on all of the aforementioned items? How do you get these items? Well, through Eververse. And sure, you can earn these in-game, but it's a loot box at the end of the day, and there's no guarantee you'll ever get what you want to drop. Well, there is one way. You can continually buy illuminated engrams, but in order to do that, you're going to have to pull out your wallet there and use Destiny's IRL money-to-currency system and increase your chances. It's not like the game was just caught with its pants down over how they were throttling experience as players tried to grind to earn more of these in-game, and then after being caught doing so, decided to double the amount of XP to earn them in-game. Now that they were forced to actually honor the XP number that they put in the game. And for the record, for those saying Bungie didn't lie to you, they most certainly did. The lie is that they put a number in writing of what XP you're supposed to be getting, and then didn't give you that amount of XP, and didn't bother to tell you in the process. The first lie could be seen as a lie of omission, but if that's not good enough for you, the second is the arbitrary number they show you, which is not what you got. That is a lie. If you're still not convinced, let's put it in context, shall we? Say you worked for me, and I told you in writing that I was going to pay you $15 an hour, and then there was no cap on what you could earn depending on how much you worked. If you worked 10 hours a day and I scaled your earnings based on how Bungie throttled your XP, where in the last hour, you were only paid 60 cents, or 4% as they did, would you call me a liar then? Would you call for a lawsuit? Would you quit the job? Well, that's what you get here, and it really got me thinking that in Destiny 1, an endgame was actually established in the form of armor and weapons that had random stats. It would have been next to impossible to change the economy in the game to force players away from that and to buy more stuff from Eververse. To be honest, I'd actually say Destiny's original microtransactions never really felt predatory. You were offered a few opportunities per week to get the exotic skins and other minor items that she offered, and if you wanted more of that, well then go nuts. Spend a few extra dollars to support a game you love. Destiny 2, however, figuratively and literally changed the game to make armor and weapons less desirable and really easy to get, leaving little to chase. The best looking and most desirable ships, ghosts, sparrows, and even shaders were all earned through raids in Destiny 1. And curiously enough, Destiny 2 offers none of that, instead putting all of that stuff behind a paywall. So here's my point. Bungie realized that long-term reoccurring monetization was not possible with Destiny 1 and decided to reboot the game and change it in very specific ways to make Eververse the true endgame of Destiny. Overall, the game is just a low-effort reskin of Destiny 1. None of the environments changed. Earth obviously looks like Earth, with some Mars tile sets added. Titan has tile sets that were taken from Earth and the Moon. Nessus, Io, and now even Mercury are Venus tile sets with different coloring. All the enemies are from Destiny 1, and before you say that it makes sense lore-wise, consider in the Grimoire, something I feel was also removed so that additional world building wouldn't need to be written and actually thought about, there are many other races in the Destiny universe, so they absolutely should have included at least one in a full-blown sequel. The story is so low quality, that includes the Curse of Osiris, that I would have a hard time believing it took any more than 20 minutes to conceptualize. None of it's clever. Nothing is revealed. Nothing about the incredible lore that Destiny had is touched upon, other than maybe the fact that Osiris is alive. What else did we learn? That the Traveler didn't actually talk to the Speaker? Who didn't know that? I mean, the Traveler was dead. The game itself mentioned that on more than one occasion. Well, until it wasn't. And holy hell, the dialogue in this game might be the worst I've ever experienced in a AAA game. They used that same line of until it didn't, until it wasn't, until they did, so many freaking times. It's found in the main campaign, it appears during adventures, and even side quests. Who's the jerk who feels it necessary to keep putting that stupid line in the game? Now let's talk about those side quests and adventures, shall we? They actually were in Destiny 1. They were just called assassination patrols. The only difference is that they have a bit more dialogue, of which most is just pointless banter, mind you, and that's about the extent of it. Heroic versions of public events just spawn another boss, so that's not necessarily a new concept. It's all just reskins. The guns, the adventures and side quests, the environments, the player creator, the abilities, the enemies, for the most part, the exotics, they are all assets from Destiny 1 shoehorned into this game in order to fundamentally change the game's grind from going for specific min-max items that provide tangible benefits to gameplay, to fashion, and cosmetic items, all found in Destiny 2's in-game store, Eververse. And apparently the effort isn't good enough, or they realize people are catching on to this because look at this position Bungie just opened up. Senior Progression Designer, in charge of creating a sustainable player progression and chase through Destiny 2's bright endgame. Work closely with our live leadership team to craft a long-term vision for the Eververse and its presence in the Destiny IP. Design and implement new features and systems with an eye on engagement, retention, and monetization. Work with Destiny 2 leadership to help define a cohesive monetization experience across multiple expansions and seasons. I could go on with more, but I think you get the picture of what I'm saying here. I'm not sure how one can view this any other way. It's funny, over here I don't see a job opening talking about player progression with guns and armor, do you? How about one that wants to know how to make the game more replayable through actual gameplay? Well, that's not here either. Isn't that what the majority of players who are complaining about on the forums and Reddit saying right now? That's what's missing? Here's what I do know. If there is a person who already holds either of those responsibilities, they obviously aren't doing their job, and maybe another opening should present itself, yeah? Overall, Destiny 2, as I mentioned, is a low-effort reskin of Destiny 1 solely made to change the player progression system to an area they can make additional, consistent revenue for the foreseeable future, and that's the only reason it exists. Played enough of the game to know what I see, And that, dear friends, smacks me in the face every time I load this game up. If you love Destiny 2 and you're taking this as a personal shot against you and your quote-unquote team, I'm sure you'll have plenty of excuses covering up for some of this stuff. And hey, you know what? Believe whatever you want. I'll stick to keeping my eyes open and alert for when I'm being taken by a company. And that's what we have here. For those asking, I am going to keep playing. Not a lot, mind you, but periodically, Destiny 2 does remind me at times of all the wonderful experience I had playing the original. And getting that feeling of nostalgia is never a bad thing. The game does feel good to play too. It's a little shooty for me these days, but you know, it still does have that core enjoyment to it. However, I want more from this game, but I also realize that my vision of Destiny is obviously not what Bungie has in mind. Not anymore, at least. There's just way too much evidence showing me the writing on the wall, and I think if you really look at it, you're going to come to the same conclusions I have. Or not. I mean, what is the old saying? Ignorance is bliss? Well, I can tell you I'm pretty unhappy, so that actually might be true. Guardians, you're on your own here. But don't forget where we're at now, because where we go from here will be dictated by how we proceed from this point forward. At any rate, hope you all have a great day. Take care, and I'll talk at you in the next one. Bye.